Okay, in this next video, we're going to look at the same character that we ended the Modeling 101 tutorial with, and we're just going to look at some ways that we can add a little more detail and definition to the character. And since right now we have uh, the grounds for a character that can have a lot of detail, but he's still rather very simple. So let's just go ahead and go ahead and get right into this. What we're mainly going to be looking at here is just adding some simple detail and definition, like to the chest, to the arms. Maybe we'll do something more here with the hands, the legs, and it's really just going to be a way for you to see how to approach getting some more detail into your character. I'm not really going to be too concerned with the head right now. We might do this in another tutorial a little later on. Main thing here, we're just trying to focus on getting more detail into our character so we can see a little bit more of what's going on. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is go and hop on down to Editable Poly and turn our show and result back on. And all detail that's going to be added to our character is basically going to be a reflection of where we move and push and pull the vertices that are on our character. One of the things that we need to know, have a good idea of before you start trying to get more detail into a character like this, you need to have a good understanding of anatomy. But the first thing that I'm going to do, just looking at it, is I can tell that these legs, there's definitely a lot more that can be done here with these legs. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a little paint deformation real quick, trying to just simply get some basic looks, a basic look happening here real quick. And paint deformation is a very easy way to do it. And you can see that 20 is not bad. Let's lower that a little bit so we can slowly bulk up the legs. That's looking pretty good. And about like that. So we're just basically, yeah, that's actually not too bad for his legs. We could go real huge, but I'm not really, that's not really what I want to see. I do want that area to be a little bigger. Some of the great things about our push-pull, holding Alt while we press down, is actually going to give us the ability to actually push things in. So as we can see, we're starting to add a lot of detail already. And some of the things that we want to keep an eye out for, if you choose to do something like this, we need to really watch stuff like this, where these edges, these vertices are starting to cross over each other. It's a good idea that as you're doing this, when you see things like this occur, to go ahead and fix them now. You don't want them creeping up on you later on. So I'll just go ahead and address that right now. And I can tell, in order to get the trapezoid muscle on this guy working right, I'm going to need another row of edges coming down here in order to get the kind of definition I'm really looking for. However, I'm not going to be focused on that at the moment. I just want to kind of deal with where we were, and that was just doing some quick paint deforming. So that's pushed in there, and it's real easy. Just hold it down, and the main thing that we want to kind of see here is just that slow adding of we want to push down a little bit, and having our our the push-pull value low enough to where we can just slowly build up. Like along this area, 5 is probably going to be a bit much. I'll cut that in half, and we'll just slowly add a little bit. I always want to make sure that you're at a good angle to see what's going on, and I'll just alt and push those back in a little bit, and we'll push this one down. Yeah, keep in mind that we are going to be adding more detail to our character as it goes. The only thing is we just, like we kind of left it off in the last one, we just really want to kind of be focused on for right now just getting some of the basic bulkiness so we can have a better visual picture of where to add more detail. And looking at this right now, I can tell if this is the shoulder, if in fact that is what we're going for, the shoulder right here. I don't really have much of an area for the bicep to come out. I can balloon this up a little bit and kind of see what it's looking like. Actually, I think that's gonna work out okay for us. If that's the bicep, then the tricep has to be here. And under here. So that's the tricep, there's the shoulder. We can come in here and fix this a little bit later on. And we'll figure out something to do here. Might even go ahead and give them some fingers, but it's not really kind of what I had in mind for this character. I kind of saw him being, you know, like these are big blocks and that he was using to smash stuff with. I think we are just about ready to, pretty happy with the overall shape that we have. Seems like he's got a pretty good setup right now as far as overall muscle mass, and I definitely think we're ready for some detailing. Okay, so let's go, and we got to start picking out some of the areas that we know we need to fix. One of the things that I can see here by looking at them again was this area. I really want this to stand out a lot more. So when I get to this stage, I like to turn off the turbo smooth so I can see the mesh for exactly what it is. And obviously if we come in here and we select on this edge, we ring it, see that it's, and you get that whole side of the body, which down here we're going to need some of that detail. We can use some of that detail here. So you know what, that's probably not going to be a bad idea, so we'll go ahead and go with that. Move my edit edges up here so we can connect. And if we did that one here, we need to go ahead and follow suit and do the same thing along this one. Main thing you want to kind of watch is just, when you ring, kind of make sure that it is in fact going to follow the same pattern. Okay, so notice we're not cutting in anything right now. We're just subdividing even more. Like right here is another area. Ring, connect it. If we do that one, we might as well go ahead and finish off. So the only thing we're doing now is basically the same thing we did as we ended the last tutorial. We're at 800, almost 900 polygons right now, which is still pretty good for our character. If we take a look at them here with the turbo smooth on, we can see the negative effects of what we were doing with our paint deformations because we didn't have enough information, but now we do, and we can really kind of see what problems are arising out of that. Next thing I'm going to look at here is the chest, because we're going to come back to this. Matter of fact, it's bothering me so much, I'm going to go ahead and fix this. Okay, so looking at it, I can tell that my edges are following along pretty straight. Everything's going along pretty straight. Then when it gets here, it kind of juts off in this direction. So what I want to do is just basically push these vertices back where they were. And a nice trick that we can do is we come down, and it's going to be under Edit Geometry. I'm going to go ahead and go from Constraints from None to Edge. So now when I move this vertice, because I'm constrained to the edge, it's going to actually follow that edge. It's not going to. So if I go on None, and for example move this on the X, I can see how it pushes back past this vertice right here. But if I have it constrained to the edge, it's actually going to move down the edge and meet that vertice. And I can never move it past that point. So it's a really nice thing to have. I like to generally have it set up as a keyboard shortcut. But one of the things that I'm going to be looking at here, right here, this I can see that between this row of edges and this row of edges, that right here in the middle, that's pretty equal distance between those two. And then as it moves towards the front, these guys right here are even a little bit, they're starting to kind of favor this side a little more. So the only thing that I'm really doing right now is I'm just trying to push these guys back to get them to where they're even again. So this guy, pull it right back. Now here, if I try to push it out, it's not going to come towards me. It's going to follow this edge up. If I want to have it push out, I've got to turn my constraints off, and I would like this one to be pushed out a little bit like that. And let's pull that one. So it's good to know when they are useful and when they're not useful. But again, the only thing I'm doing is just trying to even the placement of these edges, even them out a little bit. Okay, as I get underneath the arm, again, this is where, you know, studying anatomy is gonna help you tremendously. I want this edge right here. My constraint is on None. I want that to be up there a little bit because that's the bicep. And we'll pull this one up. And again, just looking, I can see where my vertices are and kind of how they're not fitting the scheme of what I'm looking for. And what I'm talking about here when we are adjusting these lines is the topology of the character. The topology is a very important factor when we're looking at how we're going to model, because you can have a model that looks good, but the topology, like this topology, is very clean. If a good way that you can kind of test to see is by doing the ring and loop. So if I select on any edge, ring it, and kind of follow it around, how far does it go? So that one goes all the way around, and there's no breaks. It's a complete thing. It comes back on itself. So that's a sign that in that direction the topology is smooth. I can also just use my ring or my loop to actually bounce to another area. So I'm just going to go ahead and test them, and I can tell that these are all going to be really good because there's no weird areas. Same thing goes with loop. See how loop selects all the way down, but when it gets to this one, it doesn't continue selecting because of all the different intersections that we have here. So one of the things that we would have to try to figure out is how can we fix this area. If you find that it's giving you problems, then it would have to get fixed. Sometimes you can get away with it. Having one right here, it really isn't a terrible thing. It's just when you have these like star patterns to where this one vertices meeting all these other polygons right here at this intersection. If we have these all over the place, that's going to cause issues with our mesh, but as you can see, we really don't have any other ones. So the topology of the mesh, having it very even, very uniform, is what you're going for. And notice that we want to have these quads. A quad is nothing more than a polygon that is constructed by 4 vertices. Notice that I don't think I have any that are not quads right at this point, because we haven't started doing anything different, anything special to our mesh at this point. Everything's 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. It's when we start to cut mesh that we're going to start seeing some areas where we're going to start losing quads. And tries are not a terrible thing. They're just not. They're not as. It's not really the kind of thing that you want to strive for. You want to strive to make sure that you have quads, because when everything is quads, that means that your topology is going to be clean. For example, if I select on this guy and I hit ring, or if I hit loop, and if it doesn't select some place, it's because there's an issue, and it's something that needs to be addressed. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on. So I want to now take a look at the chest muscle. Okay, one of the things that we need to understand about anatomy is is where the chest muscle begins and ends. Okay, the chest muscle obviously is connected to the center of the chest, and one of the things that we don't have at this moment, I'm going to go ahead and turn my turbo smooth up a little bit. One of the things that we don't have is where the indentation, the separation of the chest. So let's say I come in here and I select on a couple of these edges and I move them in. Okay, at least now we are starting to get some kind of representation that the chest is separating there. Okay, but another thing that we can do, instead of pulling this in, will be to pull these guys out to make the chest get even bigger. Okay, now what we need, so we know that it's going to bend, it's going to start here. Okay, it's going to be connected here. We're going to have a separation. But now where does the muscle connect to? The chest muscle works its way and connects up underneath the shoulder muscle. So if I take a look at my topology, my chest muscle, as it stands right now, this muscle is actually going along and it's following down to the bicep. Well, what actually happens with this muscle is it doesn't follow along like it's doing here. It actually connects up underneath it. For example, I'm going to right click and go to cut. This muscle is going to follow, and it's actually going to end like that. That's the direction this muscle is going to go. Now by doing that cut, just left clicking and then right click to end, what did that give me? Gave me a triangle. 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3. Okay, so we have a triangle there, so we have to figure out, how are we going to handle it. I know for a fact that this is the direction that I want this muscle to go. Okay, but it actually, I can also go into vertices, select this guy, hold control, select that one, and do a connect. It does the same thing. Okay, so what I want to do here, so now I can see that this guy is coming up and is joining into my shoulder muscle here, and then notice it comes down and around. So watch what happens now if I do a loop. Okay, so it still gets there, but notice this guy doesn't know where to go. Doesn't know which direction to head in. This one still gets it, but this guy has no clue. So we have to figure out, again, how are we going to handle this. Now triangles are not, they're not terrible. It's just the kind of thing that you want to try and avoid them if you can. However, sometimes there's nothing you can do, and if you can hide a triangle like we have here, for example, up underneath the arm somewhere, is, you know, we're hardly ever going to see that, so it's fine not to hide it underneath there. But we don't want to, we want to try to hide them when we can, but there are some things that the easiest, simplest way to get the look that we're going for is by using a try. And that's just a decision that you have to make as a modeler, if you want to go with that or not. You generally want to stay away from them, but computers are good enough nowadays that it's it can be a non-issue as long as you're not overdoing it. And what I'm doing now is I'm just going to say I know that this is direction I want it to follow. So let's just see what that did. And I can see already that it's added a little bit more definition here. It's given me some more things that I can do to my muscle. But something else that I want you to understand is we're going to have a major crease going on right here. Okay, and a major crease needs to be handled. If we really want the pec muscle to jump out, we're going to need another some more definition coming down here, some more segments. But if we were to ring this guy right now, it just goes all the way around the back, which isn't a bad thing, because we're probably eventually going to need some more detail back here. I can see right here we got a vertice jutting way out here, and then so I can tell we're probably going to need more down here. But what I want to do is focus on my main area. And if this line right here and I'm just going to end it right here for now. If this main line represents the direction of my chest muscle and my pec, what I'm going to do is chamfer it, set it back to 0, so I can watch. And let's bring the segments down. So now I can watch what's happening. And let's maybe go like right there. Okay. Obviously don't want to add more, because as we can see in here, we have some weird issues that we have to work out. But by taking my chamfer and splitting it, what I've allowed myself to do, as we can see, the chest muscle standing out a lot more right now, because we've given it more detail to hold that information. However, we have some work to do. As we see right here, this is not good. Okay, that's a try, and we want to try and get away from it, and all we have to do, right click, target weld, that guy there, try's gone. Okay, we have the same thing right here. I said we could use, we could hide triangles underneath the arm, but this isn't really a great place to try and get away with it. So I'm just going to get rid of that one. Okay, we've got another one right here. And as you're doing this, you gotta, well, this one's always going to go here, this one's always going to go. No, there's no one way that it has to be. It all depends on the overall look that you're going for. Maybe keeping this try here is going to work. Maybe bringing that one there is going to work. The only way to know for sure is to fix up what you can and then go in and see what kind of luck you can have as you're continuing to model. So just by doing that, let me take a look and see what we're getting here. I can see the chest muscles coming up, and it looks like it's disappearing behind the bicep, which is what it's supposed to do. The only thing is, I'm not getting the sense that it's also coming and joining the shoulder. So now is when I would go in and start making some adjustments. And I know that I want this one to be out a little further. So we just start modeling a little bit. And when you see an area that you want to move two vertices at once, then hop over to edge mode and move them there. I can see that this guy here is not following my topology. Could probably come back a little, pull him back a little. Okay, now what this extra line is also going to do for me, it's also going to give me, because these vertices are going to be holding their position, it gives me a way of bulking out this area along here. As we can see, I'm able to pull it out, and I'm really kind of maintaining where those edges are coming along. They're holding their positions. So I can continue to look and see, you know, there's a lot of things here that I'm not able to achieve, a look that I'm just not able to achieve at the moment. I could bring these in closer, and notice the closer I bring them in, the more of a crease we get. Okay, two edges coming close together are going to give us a crease. See how that works? So now we're getting really nice deformation in here. Now what we want to try to do, notice we're just about connected now. Okay, so it's all a matter of looking at it, seeing what we have to work with. Okay, this guy is going way up underneath there. Okay, I still, even though I like the look that it was giving me, you still want to try to keep the mesh somewhat organized, and having this vertice buried way up in here, not really a good plan. If we were to just keep things simple and just bring them close together, we're going to get the same look. And where is my... So let's constrain that to edge again. If we were to just keep them close like this, we're still going to have that nice crease. Nice crease. So just right in this area, which is right about here, we figure out how we can bring these guys in. We're pretty much going to have our crease looking good. So again, notice as I make adjustments over here, I want to look at it on this side and kind of see how it's really looking, how it's really kind of coming together. And just got a couple more areas here that seem like they're not quite wanting to play nice yet. We also got to keep in mind that the top edge here, okay, this is the vertice that we're bringing up close. Notice that they are underneath this one. This one's out above it. Okay, I could also move it like that. Okay, this one's out above it, but notice how far back that one is. Okay, this one's not hardly at all out in front of it, so I'm going to turn my constraints to none and actually pull this guy out, and now I can tuck him up underneath like that. Now we have that little ridge coming out. I'm going to take this whole edge, pull it out. And now, let's see, what else? Maybe we can pull this guy. Pull him out a little bit. And let's take a look. Okay, not bad. Now I want to do the same thing. I want to kind of carry that same concept up underneath the chest. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. First off, I know by looking that I'm going to need more definition right here. So let's go ahead and ring that puppy and connect it. Okay, this new one, this new edge here, can be, as we can see, that the center of the chest is really starting to kind of come in right now. So again, whenever you want to have a crease, you need at least two edges there. Okay, so we now have a crease in the middle of our chest. We have the creases on our arms. Okay, so we want to get the crease here. We see we already have this, our two edges right here that we can make a crease, and all we have to do is pull one up under, move it close, and the closer we get to it, the more that crease stands out. Okay, but something else that we can do, what I like to do, is sometimes actually spread these out, because we know this is the area we want. Let's make sure that constraint to edge, and I'm going to separate these a little bit, and let's pull this one back. Okay, now I actually want to take these guys and connect them, because now I have just one more. I don't know, let me do this again. Make sure that this edge is, aha, I can see right there. I picked the wrong one. Okay, that one. And I'm not worried about going up in here right now. We can figure this part out later. We might even just leave that one there, even though there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices on this polygon, which is called an n-gon. We'll just, maybe we won't deal with that. Maybe we will. We don't know. We'll have to see how it looks. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I like this one holding because this chest we want to be thick. Okay, and that's what this this edge that we just created, that's what this is going to give us. Is going to give us thickness to our chest. And now we can take and do the same thing we were talking about and pull this one, pull these guys up underneath our new one. And we got to get the back to none so we can actually move this thing around. Okay, so we have our nice crease there. This guy is going to go up under there. And as we're doing it, we want to kind of try to keep our vertices somewhat in order. We don't want to let things get too crazy. Okay, this vertex over here, come up like that. So we have a nice visual crease. And as we can see, that chest muscle is popping now. all because of our creases. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and we can start doing the same kind of thing along our stomach area. Now, because we moved this edge way up here to give a crease for the chest, we now have this area here again that we could probably, again, we already said we knew we were probably going to need to do something with it. Well, now's a good time to let's go ahead and do our connect. Keep in mind we can always get to it here too, just by right clicking. Okay, so I'm going to, let's come into polygon, and I want to pull, because it's definitely way too collapsed in there, because our chest muscles still sit on the chest bone, and that chest bone, the rib cage, we still like to kind of see that present underneath a little bit. Okay, so now what I can do is I can visualize these edges. Okay, if I imagine that this is my rib cage, okay, here's my rib cage. My rib cage is going to fall down, flow down as it goes around. And if that's the case, I can see that if I bring these guys down, I can see that my rib cages, I can see where it's actually starting to flow. And you can turn on the constraints as we pull these down, because notice right now they're not in the middle. Okay, they're top heavy, so the least we can do is get these guys proportionally spread out. Okay, they're proportionally spread out there. And now I have some vertices here that need to be spread out, and then this guy can come down. So we'll just continue all this. Let's take both of those, pull them down, and let's see. So we can see the rib cage is starting to get formed a little bit. Let's turn this guy off. Pull that out. We're really kind of seeing that rib cage come out now. Okay, I know that right about here is going to be the latissimus dorsi, the good old lat muscles. So I'm going to select that edge. I'm going to pull that down and out just to get a quick visual look to see if I like the way that's going. And I think I could probably get away with pulling this one out too, and having this one be the one that's going to hold the shape like that. So now we can see, just like we're giving ourselves a crease again. And let's see, we could really do a lot of stuff here and really make this muscle really pop out. Notice I'm just manipulating and readjusting, trying to keep everything smooth. Just focused on one area, one row of edges at the moment. So obviously we've got a big area right here. We're going to need some information, some more segments. Let's see. How's that looking back there? Not bad. Maybe, what else can we do? Let's see. We've got that one pulled out. This one, maybe we'll keep that one up under there. And let's pull this guy back. And while we're at it, we'll go ahead and pull those back. So even though they are not keeping that nice even intervals, we now are making them break our interval for a reason. And it's a lot better that they break the interval for a reason than just for no reason at all. So I can really see that's coming out back there. We could take this whole muscle and pull it all forward. We'll take those guys right there, maybe not that one. Pull it forward, and now that whole entire lat muscle gets bigger. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that alone for now. We'll do the back here in a minute. The next thing I want to look at is the stomach area, the good old six-pack that everybody loves to have. Okay, so how many does he have right now? 1, 2, 3, possibly. But we don't. The abs are actually 8 muscles that have to be created, and obviously we're not having enough information right now to have an 8-pack, because it's 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth one is the longest one, which goes down to the crotch. So one of the things I can already tell is that we're probably going to need to split this whole edge loop right here. Probably going to need to split that in 2. So let's do our chamfer. Okay, and we'll split it like that. And notice if we add 1, we add 1 segment to it, we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 would be down here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's, if we're looking at the abs, that's probably pretty good right there. We got that separated nice. So I'm going to, let's go ahead and pull this down. I'll do the same thing for these. Let's pull those down. And let's see what we can do. Okay, so if we had to, we could say that here's 1, 2, 3, and obviously this one, 4, needs to come somewhere down here. And one of the things that I can see is that this guy needs to come and join either this vertice, or it needs to join a place in here. Okay, there's a lot that needs to kind of happen, and we got to figure out what we're going to do. But what I suggest is not to worry with this area until later, because maybe we want to see, only the first 2 abs. Maybe, who knows, maybe we're not going to need to see this all the way down. So let's just focus on the things that we know we want to see first. And if I take a look at kind of what I have right now, I can select on these 3 polygons, and I can tell, let me pull this down. So I have those right there, and what could they be? The 6-pack. So if I come back down, and one of the things that I could do an extrude. I could do an inset. So if I extrude and say by polygon, those could be abs. They don't really look great. Separate them. They could be. I'm not really a big fan of the way they look. Okay, so we could do the extrude. We also could do an inset by polygon. Okay, that'll split it for us again. It's not actually coming off the surface, but the information is still there for us to do something with. And I kind of like that approach better. Even if we know we want the abs to be out a little bit, you know, we don't necessarily have to push them off. If we wanted to go and give the guy abs, this was probably one way that I would go about doing it. We could also, let's select some of those and put them all on one smoothing group so we don't see those weird shapes anymore. Okay, so now what would we want to do with our abs? Pull one out and see how it's not really looking like an ab. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. So what I'm going to suggest is that when it comes to doing abs, if you really want to do them, one of the things that you need to make sure of is right now is make sure that your entire model, see how I've got some of these vertices, edges, some things are just not along my center line. So if I select those, set it back to 0. Okay, what this does when we are 100% sure that our model is resting on our symmetry line, notice right here what I can also do, I've got, what is that, 5 vertices, and I selected them and I right clicked on X to set them to 0, but they didn't pop to 0. It's an average of all of them that goes to 0. But what I can do is use my scale tool and scale it just down on the X and keep scaling, keep scaling, keep scaling, and notice what's happening to them. They're all lining up, they're all straight on the X. That guy popped to the X. Those guys, I can see they're not going. Scale it on the X axis, they're all lined up. So if we imagine this on a bigger scale, 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 we're just forcing them to get, and when you see the vertices stop moving, it means that they're all lined up. Now you want to make sure, so like right here, I wanted to make sure that I'm not going to be selecting any of these vertices. I want to make sure that I'm just selecting the vertices that are along the edge. See, I want to make sure I'm not selecting anything on that side, just the edge. Okay. Scale, scale. Move back to Z. Okay, so my point here is that if we really wanted to get our abs, and something else that we could do, honestly, would be to get rid of all these interior faces here. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, so if we really want to do them, what I would recommend is that we make sure, because the abs have a separating line that run in between them, okay, I would make sure that we had that created. So for example, what I would do we need another separator running up the face? Well, we probably could use one for the nose and so forth. But for right now, let's just say that the only thing that we want to have happen is we just want down here to be subdivided a little more. Okay, so what we could imagine here is that there's the very center, and that this is going to be the separator between our abs. Okay, so that would mean that that is now an ab. That is an ab. That is an ab. That is an ab. Okay, so if we just lined all these guys up, okay, take a look at them, make sure that they're pretty straight. Okay, so there's an ab. Now what else do we know about the way our abs look? Well, we know that not only is there a separator right here, but they're also separated horizontally as well. So what could we do to create that? I could take and loop and chamfer, right, to split that guy in two. But now I might be adding more information back here than I need. Something that I really need is for these to be separated. Since I know, because there's a 1, 2, 3, so I'm going to hold control, and notice what happens when I do my ring now. Right now, if I just press ring, okay, it jumps to the next one, to the next one. It actually moves in a ring. And if I hold control and do this, notice it adds it to my selection. So now I've got 1, 2, 3 abs. I've got 1, 2, 3 separators. Probably don't even really need the bottom one. This one gets separated, that one gets separated. I now see that there is 6 abs. Do my chamfer. How much space do we want to have in here? That's, it's up to you. Let's say about like that. Okay, so now let's come in here and take a look at what happened. Alright, I can deal with that for now. It's a decent amount of space. Maybe we could play around and see what happened if this one was higher, whatnot. We could do all kinds of playing around at this point. But what we're trying to do is just to add in detail only where we know we're going to need it to help us create the look that we want. And just by looking at this, I really want for these edges to come out a little more. And this is starting to bother me enough that I'm about ready to do something about it. And for right now, I'm just going to go ahead and cut that across there, just so I've got another vertex I can do something with. Okay, so not only do we have our separator along here, and now we are separated a little bit in here, we also need to be separated along the outside edge of our ab. We'll take a look, see what this is looking like right now. Move this one up, move it back a little bit, or we can push it out. Whatever works. This guy should come up. We can see we really need that extra separator coming down. So I'm just going to do my cut tool, and we'll go from right there. I'll just drag straight on down, or we could get specific on where those cuts are going to be. Notice I just made quads. Notice I just made quads again. Even though up here we don't have quads, could take this guy up in here and hide it underneath the crevice of the chest, and nobody would know. Okay, so we have added our detail. The only thing we got to do now is figure out how we want it to look. As you can see, this can be an ordeal, to say the least. And there's no one way to go about doing this. It's just a matter of adding in geometry where you need it, and having the sense about you to realize that, hey, maybe this is working, maybe this is not working. But this is how I would go about it. I don't want this tutorial to be an all-night affair, showing you everything. I'm just trying to show you some basic concepts. So for the abs, like I said, you could pick on one, extrude it, or you can go in and just cut in information that you want. Keep in mind that the overall result that we're going for, once you start cutting in chest and you start cutting in abs, you're basically telling the viewer that this character is ripped. And if that's the case, now you're going to need to add in the ribs and the rest of the muscles that are in here. We already got the lats. Okay, now you're going to have to also add the obliques in. So just keep those things in mind as you start getting all excited about the detail that you're adding, that the more detail you add, quite frankly, the more you're going to have to add to keep your character looking good. Keep it to where it's the character, the way the look is, that it all makes sense. So there's just things to keep in mind as you're approaching it. If you can get away with not doing a lot of detail on your character, great. If not, then oh well, lesson learned. Let's see if we can pull these guys out a little bit more. Starting to just bug me. Okay, I'm about to give up on these abs here. I really want to get to the back before everybody falls asleep on me. So let me just do a little bit more. Yeah, I'm about to go ahead and call this one a day as far as these abs go. Always looking to see where you're going to have potential issues with the mesh. Always kind of make sure things look good, bouncing back and forth. I can see these hard edges right here are because these vertices here are too close together. So what I can do is either keep it or pick an edge and target weld. Even though this is an N-gon, maybe we could cut it over there. You also want to be careful when you cut vertices like I just did. If I select on it, look down here under the selection, it's telling me there's two vertices selected. When you see that, you need to make sure you weld. So I select on that one, it says vertex 588. That one says 3. It doesn't mean that there's 3, but look, I've selected all of those. Another reason why getting rid of these faces is a good thing. So again, let's, okay, vertex 591, 599. See how It's now smoothed out in that area, which is good. So it's giving me something to play with. There's definitely some information here that I can really use to crank up the density on my mesh and really start getting some good detail in here. One of the things I want to do real quick, I want to cut in just a little bit of detail on this character so I can pull out what could be a rib. And I can see that this vertice has no home, so I'm going to cut this guy down like that. And I'm going to bring that one straight up. And as I do that cut, this one comes over here, this one comes over here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's make sure. Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a try in here. Is that a good or bad thing? Well, depends on, does it allow us to get the look that we want. If it does, and it doesn't make it look weird, then it's good. I don't really see anything weird in that area. I just see we've got a little more detail coming out. So I'm happy with it. Looks good to me. I'm not going to sweat it. Pull this guy out. Make a couple last minute adjustments here. And okay, that's enough on the front. I do want to, before I move to the back, I want to look at the clavicle area. This right here is going to be the clavicle. Chamfer, split it a little bit. I'm going to actually add a segment because it's this segment here that I'm now going to loop. You can see that it dies off here, so I'm going to deselect those. Before, because I want this one to join here, and I've got all this weirdness right here that I've got to deal with. So I'm just going to use my target weld. This one's going to come here, this one's going to come here, this one's going to come here. And now I can balance that one out. I can leave this triangle if I want, or I can target weld it to there and then readjust it like so. And that works for me. So now I can select that guy, loop, and I see now it goes all the way around. And hey, this is an area that I want some more definition in. So let's do our chamfer. No, I'm sorry. I don't want to do that right now. I don't want to pick these at the moment. And I'm not going to pick those. And I'm not going to pick that one. This one is picked up. This guy comes back down. So there's this one. And let's take to take that one and that one, pull it back a little more, and now I'm going to take those, chamfer them just a little bit like that. Now we've got some more information here for the clavicle, and I can tell that I've got some weird things going on right in there. So the best thing to do is just target weld until they make sense. That one's going nowhere. That one can go there. If I wanted to now, I can cut here, click in the center, come all the way down, go back. This guy comes there. This guy comes there. Make sure that we go back and select on that area. I got all this weirdness going on down here, which is why I'm about to just freaking cut all this stuff off. I'm getting over it. But now we have a nice clavicle. We've got a lot of segments around the area, which is why it's so smooth. So for example, if I were to pull this one away, pull it away, pull this one down, now it goes away a little bit. Same thing, spread the distance a little bit. The more we collapse them together, the more we're going to see. Pull that one down, separate it, do the same thing back here, separate these guys a little bit. Oops. There we go. So obviously we're seeing a little zit over here because of all the craziness we have in this area. So again, what we got to do, get rid of them. Get rid of the craziness. Cut, come out, down, back into it, connect out, quad, 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 quad. Another crazy area. Target weld, target weld, target weld. Cut, out, down, down, connect to there. So you can see there was something along there. That poor vertice isn't connected to anybody, so just remove him. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, so just real quick before we leave, we definitely added some more detail on this guy. Got some more tweaking we can do. Something else that's really interesting before I start the back, I know it's taking forever for me to get to this back, but I actually am going to go ahead and get rid of these inside pieces now. And easy way of doing this is just using the slice tool. So for example, let's say I'm going to come up here to the editable poly, and I'm going to add a slice modifier. Go into subobject, rotate it 90, put it right on the 0, the x-axis, and remove bottom. You can see that as I move it over, it just chops them away. Let's take a look at it in the front view. And the only thing we want to do is move it just enough that we see it eat everything away, like it did right there. So that got them all. One more time in the front view. Notice we have the cut segment, and then we still have our extra segment. We still got the extra. Okay, everything looks good there. Now I can select, right click, go collapse to. Yes. And notice it kept, collapse to went down. So it collapsed the slice into the editable poly, but it kept our symmetry and our turbo smooth. Turn those back on. And now, because our slice was just a little bit over, we need to pull our symmetry just a little bit over. And now by doing so, because everything has now shifted over just a little bit, we might need to go in and space our edges out a little more. Like I can see here in the neck, this guy's way back here now. I can see, look, we got some extra vertices just sitting there. Might be a graphical error. It looks like that slice didn't get rid of any of our vertices. Let's undo a couple times. So there we have them. You see that they're all selected. Let me keep going back. There's our slice. Slice, collapse to, well, I don't see those floating vertices anymore. I see what it was. It's just that symmetry, because they've gone past the line. Those vertices. No, it's doing it again. That's so weird. That's so weird. All I know, they're not pulling, they're not actually there. I can't select on them. So my guess is it's just a glitch in 2008 right now. What I can do to really kind of see if they're going to be there is the turbo smooth I really don't need. I'm going to cut the symmetry. Yeah, see now my vertices aren't even showing up. So that's letting me know that it's a little glitch. Means Max probably needs to be restarted. So anyway, now I can paste, get that symmetry back on there, and I can put my turbo smooth back on. Put it at 1 and set it to isoline. Alright, so what I was going to show you is I'm going to go ahead and select all of these faces except for the ones along the end. So all these, and not that one, not that one. Let's do these. Okay. So all those guys. I still don't want this one. I don't want it touching the edge. Just those. And we've got a lot of vertices that are kind of in, out, over, in, out, over. Okay. What I can do is come down to my edit geometry, hit relax, and it basically runs math on the whole thing and says, you know what, smooth out. So it's no longer as hard. There's not so many vertices that are weird in this area. They kind of fix themselves a little bit. So it's something that's actually really good to do, different areas around your mesh. A lot of times if I'm spending a lot of time working in a certain area, I'll come in and select that area like this and then just relax it a little bit. Like we can see what it's doing there, and that was actually too much for there. But I can select some of that, relax it, and there we go. It's actually too much. Control page down. So let's take some of this, relax. Yep. Same thing like over here, relax. Relax. Make sense? Good. Alright, well, that's going to be about enough for right now. The back obviously is just more of the same. There's no more real tricks to it. I mean, that's kind of the basic principle that you're going to apply to the whole entire mesh. And you know, it's just using a couple of those tricks to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And it's really just kind of knowing where you want detail and how you plan on getting it. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that right now. Let me see, you know what, I'm about to just get started in doing this anyway, but I don't have time. We need to go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys get busy trying this out. Just keep in mind at every step of the way, when you get to a point that you're kind of happy, like I'm pretty happy with this area right here, obviously you want to save it. And you know, before you move on to the next area, before I move on here, I would want to go around my mesh and take a look at it, and like areas right here, I would want to go ahead and start to get the edges kind of set up again to where they are uniformly dispersed. And where's it at? Right here, edge. And I like that because you want to keep yourself from having so much work at the very end. And it's easier if you kind of knock things out as you come across them. And that's what I like to do, is before I even move on to another section, I like to kind of just go and get things straightened out, you know, big problem areas that I see. Just gonna get those uniform, because one day we're gonna come back to them. It might not be anytime soon, but we know we're gonna come back to them, and it'd be nice that when we get back to them, we don't have to sit there and do all this reorganizing. We can just get right to what we want to do. The only thing I'm going to do is kind of what we've already talked about and what you've already seen me do. I can tell this area I'm going to need some more information, but I don't necessarily need to carry it down this far, so I'll just add a little bit in that area. And this back is very far in. I'm going to pull this guy out, and it's way too far back, and I've got to get this off constraints. That should be more like up here. And we can rotate and do the same thing, so just getting those set up. Alright, so I hope that this helped. I hope that you've learned something. I'm going to obviously continue on with this model and kind of see where else I can take it, and we'll come back for the next part, which is, you know, just kind of wrapping up, finishing it, and getting this guy ready to be textured. We'll come back and look at, you know, some ways we can approach the head, and see if I can make my mind up with what I want to do here on the hands. And we'll look at the legs a little bit more too. But I think I'm probably gonna knock those out on my own and trust you guys to see what you can come up with. Alright, hope you've learned something. We've definitely taken him a lot farther than we had him to begin with, and we have added a total of we were not even quite at 1,000, and now we're at, you know, almost 10,000 polygons for this character. And, you know, it's a pretty good, there, I'm about to say that's more like it, yeah, 1,000. I didn't think we added that much. Turbo Smooth does wonders. So okay, I'll see you guys next time, and keep modeling.